as well as the earwax, the patient who's now in their 50s advised that they have a congenital hearing loss. And when we say congenital hearing loss, they were born with a hearing loss. So there was a genetic reason. His sister also has a hearing loss since birth. He's not quite sure of the exact cause and nature behind the hearing loss, but it is a family trait. Sometimes you can get syndromes. So there's syndromes known as Pendred syndrome or Usher's syndrome, where you have other disabilities, other health conditions, as well as hearing loss. But the patient advises that they have a non-syndromic congenital hearing loss, and it's not quite sure the cause. Therefore, this wax impaction only served to exacerbate their pre-existing and long-standing hearing loss. They have a very narrow ear canal, particularly at the entrance, and also quite a bendy ear. Now, we started off in the right ear, and I'm just using a bit of microsuction with a standard Zollner suction probe, trying to just wriggle this wax out of the ear. There is a coating of dead keratin that's enveloped and wrapped itself around this plug of wax, and that keratin is also adhered to the ear canal wall, so it acts like a double-sided sticky tape, and it doesn't want to release the wax. Just working on the posterior canal wall here, and the wax here is a bit dry and harder. The patient could actually feel the wax being manipulated in the ear because it was so hard and it had a rough surface. At times the patient did find it slightly uncomfortable, more so in the left ear. So if you keep watching, you'll see the procedure in the left ear. But this ear was their worst ear. I always try and commence the procedure in the patient's worst ear, just in case for whatever reason we're not able, or through time constraints, for example, or if it becomes uncomfortable. I'd rather always deal with the patient's worst ear, the ear that they felt the need to book the appointment in the first instance, because even if they can partially unblock it for the patient, at least they go out being able to hear a bit better than when they first came in. So I'm just using some forceps here. I'm just trying to wrap the jaws around the plug of wax. So in the core, it's a bit softer, so the forceps are almost acting like scissors. It's biting through, it's cutting through the wax, instead of just grasping it and clamping it and then being extracted. Nonetheless, it is helping me getting a bit of wax out. The key is not to over grasp and clench the forceps. If you apply too much pressure, as I said, you can cut through it. So you just want some gentle force, gentle pressure, so the jaws, the teeth of the jaws are forming a grip around the plug of wax and keratin, and then you slowly wriggle out. And you can see here we're going to get another chunk of earwax out. And the wax came out in chunks. Sometimes you hope it comes out in one big mass, but in this patient it was in chunks of earwax. If the wax was really wet and soggy, then it doesn't come out in chunks at all. It's all mushy, and a lot of it can get vacuumed up the suction probe. There's quite a large skin and wax plug here. You can see the fresher layer of skin at the base of this plug, the white layer. So that's freshly dead skin that's shedded from the ear canal, and that's enveloped itself. You can see that there. Patient's got a nice healthy eardrum. They have got a mild expansion of the bony part of the ear canal. You'll see that in a moment. And I suspect it could be just beyond this layer of wax. You'll see the ear canal at the base is slightly widened. And that could be anatomical defect from birth, or it could be actually this wax plug, because it has been there for a while, and the patient noticed that, although, as I said, they do have an underlying hearing loss, they notice a significant improvement in their hearing once they got the wax out. And sometimes when you get a wax and keratin plug like this, which is so hard, it widens and it expands, and it can apply pressure on the bony part of the ear canal and actually widen and expand the canal. And when you've got a widened canal, it can cause issues. Skin that normally migrates out of the ear naturally gets trapped in the widening, and therefore the skin no longer migrates, which means the wax doesn't also come out naturally, which then leads to a buildup of wax and keratin. So we're going to move on to the patient's left ear. So this, the left ear you'll see in a moment. I'm just mopping up near the entrance of the right ear. The left ear was quite challenging, although the patient didn't feel it was blocked as the right ear. It did take a lot longer and it's a bit more complex. Nice healthy eardrum there. So this is the patient's left ear. You can see on all these cilia, all these hairs, they're located in the outer cartilaginous portion of the ear canal. And these hairs bear two types of glands, ceremonous gland, which is an oily sweat gland, the same oily sweat gland found under our armpits. They're called modified alpogrine glands, and also sebaceous glands, which secrete an oily fatty substance called sebum. It's the same natural oil that's secreted on our scalp by the hair follicles on top of our head. So the oily fat or the oily sweat combines, it amalgamates, it mixes in with dead skin, and that's your ingredients for earwax. And 60% of earwax is dead skin. The remaining 40% is a combination of the sebum and the oily sweat. The oily sweat you only have if you have a particular mutation on the ABCCE11 gene. And if you have the ceremonous gland, not only does it mean you've got wet earwax, it also means that same gland gives you body odour under your armpits. If you don't have that particular gland, then you don't have body odour and your earwax is very dry, so you don't have the oily sweat. And it's when you've got the oily sweat as an ingredient with your wax, as that oily sweat evaporates, it kind of just goes slightly rancid, and it can get an acidic odour coming. So sometimes when you've got earwax, you can actually smell the wax as well. It's quite acidic. But you have to be really, really close to the ear. So obviously, like myself, when I'm removing the wax, I'll be able to detect and smell it. So just use a combination of forceps, suction, you can use a hook as well. And we're going to have to, in a moment, really stretch this patient's ear wide open, because this plug is much larger than the entrance. Similarly to the right ear, the patient's got an expansion, albeit mild, of their ear canal. So the inside of the ear canal is larger than the entrance of the ear. So when we're trying to remove a large plug through a narrow entrance, really, which can pose its problems. So I'm looking forward to Saturday. I've been invited again as a guest speaker to the International Audiological Science Symposium conference. I gave a talk last year on ceremony management, and I got invited back again to give the same presentation. I did advise that there wasn't much more I could add to. Not much has changed since last year in terms of ceremony management. And they actually wanted me to give the same presentation because it went down really well last year with the delegates. So I'm looking forward to do that on Saturday. It's an early start. The conference is being hosted in India, so I'll be joining them via Zoom, or I think it's WebEx actually. So that'll be exciting. We've also got a new website coming out soon, guys. I will notify you when it's ready. So it's the Clearwax website, www.clearwax.co.uk. It's about 6-7 years ago since we first launched it. We've revamped it to bring it into the modern times. We've got some great new features on there. We've got an online database of all the qualified earwax removal specialists in the UK, so you can enter your postcode or your city, and you can locate your local specialist. You can view their profile, you can have a look at the treatments they offer, their pricing, the opening and closing times. There's a host of information available, and you can then contact that specialist directly via their profile page. You've got their contact details. So we have got the website up and running at the moment, so I'll just repeat that, www.clearwax.co.uk. So please note, specialists are from the UK. We will, in time, branching out to the US and Australia and South Africa and other parts of Canada, for example. But at the moment, the specialists are just based in the UK. And you'll see the website's pretty decent at the moment, but we've given it a really good uplift, and we're really pleased with it. So I managed to remove that plug. You'll see the crater there. The patient's actually got 2 craters. Nice healthy eardrum. See just the widening there. That's all the remnants, that's all the chunks of dry hard earwax. I hope you